Today I am out in South Carolina doing the first drive of the all-new redesigned and resized GMC Acadia. Now behind me is the AT4 trim, the off-road oriented trim, one of 3 available. At the bottom we have elevation replacing the SLE and the SLT. We have AT4, which is the off-road oriented trim, and Denali at the top, which is going to give you the best luxury experience, something that the Denali driver expects. We're going to take a quick look on the inside, on the outside, and talk about some of the dimension changes they made to make this vehicle have a much larger footprint. And then after that, we're going to drive it on-road, as well as testing some of the off-road features the AT4 has to offer. And then we're going to talk about the pricing at the end. Let's jump in. Taking a look at the front of the AT4, you can see we have a nice, sleek, blacked out design, as this is the AT4 and they want it to be sleek, aggressive, as well as differentiating itself from the other trims. We have a blacked out grille with this nice kind of like metallic gray and a gloss black lower bumper with this nice plastic high clearance bumper, giving you a better approach angle while off-road. Now below you can see these bright red tow hooks that are functional, whether you want to be pulled out of a ditch or pull someone else out of a ditch, they are functional at that. The big GMC logo up front with a camera underneath, part of your surround view camera system. 7 cameras come standard on all trims with optional of 8 and 9. Now on the front here you can see that we have parking sensors coming around to the side, all LED headlights and DRLs and fog lights that are standard on all trims of the Acadia. Now down below we do have an aluminum skid plate down here, so you can hear aluminum skid plate up front, and then right behind that a steel skid plate to back that up. Now inside the lower grille here, it is a nice gloss black look. Again, high clearance, giving it that extra approach angle while off-road. There is a radar in here, as this vehicle is equipped with Supercruise. Now Supercruise is optional on all trims of the Acadia for the 24 model year. Taking a look at the side profile of the Acadia, you're going to see that it is going to be much bigger than before. With an overall length of 204 inches and a wheelbase of 121, it has grown nearly 10.5 inches in total length and 8.5 in the wheelbase. It's also wider as well as taller, especially on this AT4 that has the 1.2 inch lift. Now around the side we're going to have gloss black mirror caps, LED integrated with the camera underneath, as it does have that surround view as standard on all trims. This is a nice looking mirror, giving it that nice aggressive look. Paint matched door handles, and there is going to be no chrome around the windows like you'd find on that Denali. We have gloss black B pillar, and there is no really C pillar. They moved all the HVAC controls and all the piping to this D pillar, where this is going to be a little bit wider, giving that third row a better area to look out the window while you're in that third row. Now on the bottom rocker of the AT4, it's going to be this kind of like flat plastic that you can see around the wheel well. That's going to carry on down the rocker. Rear wheel well with that side marker, and again, these nice meaty all-terrain tires to complement the off-road nature of this trim. Up top, you're also going to get roof rails that are going to be this nice gloss black, kind of fitting the rest of the theme of the vehicle. But on the Denali, that top trim that is going to have all that chrome, those are going to be a black and chrome for the Denali. For the wheels and tires on the AT4, we're looking at an 18-inch wheel. Wrapped around it is a nearly 32-inch Goodyear Wrangler Territory all-terrain, a fairly aggressive tire, but it complements the rest of the vehicle very well. In terms of suspension, it's 1.2 inches higher due to the off-road tuned suspension orientation, as well as that bigger tire, so it's going to be 1.2 inches higher. Now for the fender flares, we're going to have this nice black plastic, giving that aggressive look and kind of portraying its wider stance than normal. And on the side, you're going to have these side markers that are going to be a nearly gray when off and orange when on. This is paying homage to the HD trucks. They are going to be orange when those are off as well, but it's paying homage to those bigger HD trucks, and that's going to be front and rear. Taking a look at the back end, I want you to excuse the dirt. This has already been off-road today for a photo shoot, and we're going to take it out a little bit later. Up top, we have a spoiler where that third brake light is included. And since this does have that luxury package, you are going to be getting that rearview mirror. Sorry, not the luxury package, the Supercruise package that is one of 2 options on the AT4. So you have this rear view camera that is up here, and that is going to be for your rear view mirror. And then down below, you have your camera underneath that is going to be for your reverse camera. Now we have this nice gloss black portion right here that kind of gives the simulation that this rear window is longer or wider than it truly is. And it's a nice design feature, especially when paired with this white or red paint. When it's black on black, you really can't tell too much of a difference. In terms of taillights, all LED taillights as standard. So you can see this nice C design kind of matching the headlights up front. We have Acadia all-wheel drive over on the driver's side, and the AT4 badge that is going to be found on the side as well as in the back here, and that giving it that AT4 treatment. Now in the middle of the liftgate, this is going to say GMC, and on the Denali, this will be replaced with Denali, and GMC will be moved down to the passenger bottom corner of that liftgate. Down below, we do have our side markers as well as our backup sensors and a gloss black lower, giving it that sleek look with that quad tip exhaust that GMC says they took homage from the C8 Corvette, but it is not a direct part swap. It is just a design inspiration. If you take this cover off the lower bumper, you are going to be able to access your 5,000 pounds of towing capacity, and that is going to be standard standard on the AT4. On the elevation, that will be optional. Denali will be standard as well with 5,000 pounds of towing capacity, thanks to that 2.5 liter up front. Under the hood, you're going to find a 2.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder that produces 328 horsepower and 326 pound-feet of torque paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, previously we had two other engine options, a 2-liter turbo as well as a V6 that produced the most horsepower. This has 18 more horsepower and 55 more pound-feet of torque. And with the 8-speed replacing the 9-speed, GMC says this 8-speed working with this 2.5 will produce better power or deliver better power to the driver, as well as producing better economy. Now let's talk about economy for a second. In the elevation in Denali, you have the option of front wheel drive or all wheel drive. In this AT4, it is only all wheel drive. Front wheel drive will get 23 miles per gallon combined, and that all wheel drive will get 21 miles per gallon combined. Taking a look at the rear cargo area, we're going to find a lot more storage, as this did increase in length and width as well as height. So behind that third row, you're going to find 23 cubic feet of storage. If you fold down that third row, 57.3 behind the second, and you fold all the seats down, you're going to get a class-leading 97.5 cubic feet. Now on the AT4, you do not have the option for power folding seats, so these are all going to be manually operated with a pull string and push, and those will go down and fold completely flat. And this is a 7-seat configuration, so we're going to have captain's chairs in the second row and 3 seats in the back. If that's not enough storage for you underneath the floor in the rear cargo, you're also going to find a nice plastic tub that houses a lot of extra space to put any dirty items, wet items, or anything of that nature that you don't want to get on your carpet or just inside your vehicle at that. Now with the increased overall length as well as height, you're also going to find more headroom and legroom in all rows. So headroom in the third row is going to be 38.2 inches and legroom sitting at 32.1. There are going to be air vents up top, as this is a tri-zone climate as standard. So in the third row, you're going to get those air vents right up top blowing straight into your face. There is no charging ports back here in terms of third row. Actually, sorry, there is a USB-C tucked away right there, as well as right there. Those charging ports are so small, sometimes I miss them. And on to the second row, we have increased space as well. With 41.4 inches of legroom and 40 inches of headroom, we have captain seats, as you can see, 7-seat configuration, tri-zone climate control, like I mentioned, for that third row, as well as this has a luxury package equipped on the AT4, so we get heated seats in the second row as well. Now the Denali does come with the option to have a 1-seat push button fold forward, so you don't have to remove your car seat, and that seat can move forward so you get in that third row. But with the AT4, you're gonna have to pull this handle, and you're gonna have to crawl over this or crawl through the center between the two captain seats. The option to have that seat folding forward, kind of tilting, is not optioned on the AT4. As you can see, even though this is an all-wheel drive platform sending power to the back, we have a relatively flat floor. So whether or not you're sitting on the left or the right side, there is no middle seat to be taken advantage of, but there is no middle hump, which is a great feature. Moving on to the front seat, we're gonna have quite an upgrade in terms of space. 42.6 inches of headroom, 44.28 inches of legroom. That is gonna be 2.5 more inches of headroom and 3.3 inches more of legroom. Now for the seat or the interior options, one interior color option, that's gonna be a forest storm with mahogany accents with a two-tone or a 2 different material option with a cloth and a PVC or a synthetic material that is perforated all the way down the bottom as well as up the seat back with red accents in the AT4 embroidered and the middle of the seat in that sew line. Now those are perforated because these front seats are also going to be ventilated, as it does have the luxury package. Heated seats as standard. With that luxury package, you get the ventilation option as well as the second row heated seats. In terms of seat controls, we have 8-way power adjustable with 4-way lumbar on the driver's side, and over on the passenger side, 6-way power with some lumbar adjustment as well. Now let's jump on the interior. Let's get this AC bumping because it is 95 degrees out here in South Carolina, and I'll show you some of the interior features that come standard on all trims as well as this AT4. Taking a better look at the interior, you can see that this dashboard has lowered in all trims of the Acadia, and GMC really focused on making the driving experience as accessible as possible in terms of vision. So they lowered not only where the driver information display is, but over on the passenger side where the airbag is, they replaced that and were able to lower that. Now if we take a look down here to the glove box, it is just a basic hard plastic with a smooth plastic on the inside, no lighting, nothing special, but it is big enough for your manuals and maybe a tablet. Now coming up, we have some soft touch material, a harder plastic with a nice stitch line going across the dash. Now as standard, the Acadia is going to get a 15-inch vertically mounted infotainment system as well as an 11-inch driver information display that again comes standard on all trims. And on this AT4, the only really thing that's special about the interior is the fact that over here for your mode selection, if you go ahead and scroll down, you're gonna be able to see that we have sport, we have off-road, and for the AT4 we have terrain that is going to be operated under 50 miles per hour, and that's just going to map your throttle, help with the driving assistance, as well as kind of give you a one pedal feel when off-roading. Now on this 15-inch screen, you have your HVAC controls down here with physical buttons, turn that on and off, fan speed as well as temperature. Right here you press that button, heated seats as well as ventilated, thank goodness, because it is, oops, it's 91, not 94. But down here you can control your lights, your traction control, as well as all your HVAC and heated seat controls down below. Now up top, if you go ahead and press home, you can go back to your main screen where you're gonna have all your options to go ahead and select and customize your experience. Now speaking of customizing, this 11-inch display is customizable through your menu system here. You can show your maps, as Google Maps is built into this vehicle because this vehicle is also equipped with Supercruise, and I'll talk about that here in our driving portion. Go ahead and press this menu button on the right side of the steering wheel, and that will map this 11-inch display to a couple different options. And I love that it shows the Google Maps that are built in, because Google Maps is my jam, and also this just helps with the vision. I don't have to look over to my navigation. It is right here. Now this vehicle is also equipped with a heads-up display, 8-inch heads-up display up front, and that will display your speed as well as your Supercruise availability. Now over here on the left side of the steering wheel, this is going to be your Supercruise and cruise control settings. Over on the right side, your track forward and back, as well as your heated steering wheel. That is going to be standard across the lineup. On the back of the steering wheel, you're going to find 2 paddles on the left and right side to go up a gear or down a gear. And let's talk about the gear selector that is non-existent right here in the middle anymore. We now have a Qi wireless charger, 2 charging ports, and some storage. And on the Denali, you're going to have a kind of a retractable cover that's going to show that open pore wood that's standard on the Denali. Now the gear selector is going to be up here on the column, so you go ahead, foot on brake, pull back and down to go into drive, or up to go into reverse, or press the end right here to go into park. Push button start, of course, with this nice black plastic going across the dash. Nice soft touch padded leather or synthetic material going across the dash. You can see up there we have that heads-up display. Coming around the side, we have nice little silver accents, kind of a darker metallic silver with a cubby right here, window switches, and then down below, this is how you open your rear hatch. Now, if I open the door right here and look down at the speaker grill, you're gonna see that Bose name that is gonna be standard across all trims. The Denali will get a more performance-oriented Bose speaker system, but Bose is gonna be standard across the lineup. In terms of safety, the Acadia will come standard with 15 safety features across the lineup from base all the way up to Denali. Now, this vehicle is equipped with that digital rear camera, so we're gonna go ahead, analog. You can see me sweating on the forehead right there. It's very hot inside. Go ahead and flip this switch and you're gonna go digital. So if there is people in that third row blocking your rear window, you can go ahead and go digital and still see behind you. Now up top, you're gonna have some of your safety features, your OnStar as well as SOS and your hazards button. Then you're also gonna have your slide, your cover or your sunshade for your panoramic moonroof, as well as tilt. Now you're also gonna have a sunglass holder up here with a nice little felt liner, then a darker headliner where your microphones and some speakers and air vents are going to be located. We are now at the main off-road obstacle that they have set up for us. Now this is gonna put us off camber as well as take weight off of opposing tires. So it would be front driver and rear passenger or vice versa. And what that'll do is go ahead and test out not only the terrain mode, but also that twin locking or twin clutch rear differential, where if it senses slip on one side, it'll lock those clutches and send power to the tire that has the traction. Now that's gonna work kind of like an LSD, kind of a locking differential type situation, but again, it's not gonna lock both wheels. What it's gonna do is lock those clutches and send the power that is available to the rear or the front to the tire that has the traction. So let's go ahead and put it into terrain mode by using our mode selector over here on the passenger side or the driver's side of the vehicle. So let's get out of this camber view so we can see where we're at. We are now in terrain mode. So down on our gauge cluster, our digital 11-inch screen, we are locked into all-wheel drive. It shows a little obstacle like an off-road vehicle, and that's just showing us that we are in that terrain mode. So I am in drive. Let's go ahead and roll forward slowly, and we're gonna drop this driver tire down right now. So now it should be picking up that rear wheel. We're gonna slowly go over this. Slight throttle going up. We're gonna spin those tires, gonna find that traction, lock those clutches, and send power to the wheel that has the traction. So, man, this thing is getting sideways. This is a tough spot right here. This South Carolina sill is not forgiving. This thing takes names and keeps on going, and we are not an exception. And it's found its way through, just giving it a little bit of throttle and letting the system figure itself out. It has found the power to be delivered to the ground and pulled us through that little obstacle. Now, that isn't too hard of an obstacle in terms of an off-roading sense, but for this vehicle only having around 8 inches of ground clearance and a fairly decent off-road traction control system, that thing handled it excellent. Now let's go ahead and drive on this dirt road and see what else this vehicle has to offer while being off the beaten path. the last thing I want to test while off-road, we have a really loose, silty road right here. Now that was pretty silty back there on that obstacle, but this is even deeper silt. And I want to go ahead and test these all-terrain tires. So these come standard. The AT4 comes standard with nearly 32-inch all-terrain tires on those 18-inch wheels. And I want to see how well it hooks up in all-wheel drive in its off-road mode with traction control completely off. So right now we are set up, no traction control on, off-road mode. I'm gonna brake boost it and launch it. And we're gonna see exactly how well these tires hook up in a soft surface like this. Now I'm gonna put my foot on the brake, foot on the throttle. And we're gonna launch this in 3, 2, 1. All right, so that first one, I definitely felt the traction control or slipping or something like that trying to kick in. So I'm gonna do it one more time. I'm not gonna brake boost this time. I'm just gonna give it the most amount of throttle I can. So let's go ahead and do that. So in 3, 2, 1. I think it is spinning a little bit. Spinning, it's finding traction, and we are off. There we go. So it took about 3 to 4 seconds to actually find that traction. Then once we did, we picked up speed quite easily. Now that we're on this looser silt type road, I'm gonna actually go ahead and put it into off-road mode. So over here by my left knee, there is a mode selection. So I'm gonna scroll down into my off-road mode. That's gonna lock in the all-wheel drive, as well as giving the electronic stability control, traction control, and the ABS just a little bit more breathing room to let me have some fun. Unfortunately, as you can see, we are back on pavement and our off-road portion is over. It was a relatively short amount of time to spend off-road to test out the capabilities of the AT4, but it performed well in my opinion. Between the terrain mode as well as that twin clutch rear end on the off camber section, it performed excellent in terms of finding the grip and pulling the vehicle through the obstacle. In terms of the tires finding the traction on that loose silt, that traction control did kick in quite a bit at the lower speeds, kind of limiting the throttle and making sure you don't spin the wheels. But once we kind of found the speed, it let the wheels spin a little bit more where we found the traction and got the vehicle up to speed. With the off-road section behind us, let's hop back on the highway and test the Acadia AT4 in a more common situation that you're gonna find the Acadia owner in, and that is back on that highway where it's gonna spend most of its life driving. Now off-road, the capability is good. Let's go ahead and see how this vehicle performs on road. Now that we're in the driver's seat of the AT4, we're able to see how this vehicle drives on road, and then we're also gonna be able to test it off-road just a little bit more. Now right now I am locked into Supercruise. Supercruise is equipped to this vehicle, and that is gonna be optional on all trims of the Acadia. Elevation even gets it at the bottom trim level, and GMC says that is gonna be your cheapest way to get into the Supercruise family, equipping your elevation with that $3,000 plus package to get that Supercruise equipped. Now, this vehicle also has a luxury package, so we also have the 8-inch heads-up display, as well as heated and ventilated front seats with heated rear seats. Now, inside that Supercruise package, you also get your digital rearview mirror. So this vehicle does have 9 total camera views, including that trailer hitch assist. So there is going to be 7 standard on all trims, with 2 optional depending on how you equip the vehicle. Now, right now, my Supercruise is equipped. They have increased their mapped roads by quite a big margin. So when they released the vehicle back around 8 months ago, when Alex went to the unveiling, they had about 400,000 miles of mapped roads in North America. As of right now, 750,000 miles of mapped roads. Now, even though I'm not steering the vehicle right now, the vehicle is doing it itself. When you are steering the vehicle, one thing I'd like to point out is the steering does feel a tad bit light for my liking. Now, the off-road trim does feel a little bit more planted, as it does have a wider track width. It has bigger tires, as well as being a little bit higher in terms of the ride height. And so that all can play a factor into how it feels steering-wise. Now, how the vehicle handles, it does feel a little bit soft, especially on this AT4, as it does have off-road tuned suspension, And the Denali we drove had the performance tuned suspension. That's going to be quite a bit more stiff than what we have here. We also have all-terrain tires. They're around a 32-inch, 31.6 to be exact. So a 32-inch all-terrain tire on 18-inch wheels, off-road suspension, as well as being higher and wider. This is going to handle just a little bit different than the Denali we drove yesterday, and I think that plays a factor into why this feels a little bit more soft and a little bit more playful on the road. Now, in terms of performance for the Acadia, this does have GMC's all-new 2.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder that is replacing those 2 outgoing motors, the 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder and that V6 that was the highest horsepower option. Now, this vehicle is a 4-cylinder, but it still produces 18 more horsepower than that V6, as well as 55 pound-feet of torque more than the outgoing V6 as well. Now, once you get yourself up to 60 miles an hour, you have to come to a stop at one point. How do the brakes feel? Well, the brakes feel great. They feel Adequate for what this vehicle is meant for. It is meant for daily driving and the occasional off-road use, as this is an AT4. So the brakes are not grabby at all up top, and that is really my biggest complaint with some vehicles, and that's one thing I like to point out, because if a brake pedal is grabby up top, it's just a total miss for me. I do not like that. It just makes for a very bad driving dynamic if you can't manage it. And for me, hopping into new vehicles every week, when you have a grabby pedal like that, it just makes it feel like you're driving aggressively or braking aggressively. So I'm glad this vehicle does not have that. But the brakes overall feel good, and they feel like they can slow this vehicle down in an appropriate amount of time. Now for 60 to 0, I have not yet tested that. As we are out in the back roads of South Carolina, I have yet to find a road where I can cruise at highway speeds and slam on the brakes and test that braking distance. So for right now, we're just gonna have to go with the feel of the brakes, and the feel is good. In terms of handling characteristics, the Acadia handles decent, but I would find that the AT4 does have quite a bit of body roll. Now that is, again, for the fact this does have the off-road tuned suspension and pretty big tires, so there is a lot of sidewall to roll over. Now in the vehicle that we drove yesterday, the Denali, that had the performance tuned suspension, and that handled a little bit better, but still actually had quite a bit of body roll, more than I would like, especially for the fact it did have that reserve package where you did get 22-inch wheels and that performance tuned suspension. So I feel like for that extra money, I would have liked a little bit better of handling. But in terms of overall ride quality, just on a straight highway, it rides pretty well. And interior cabin noise feels good. And in this AT4 on these rough southern highways, I read 64.7 decibels at 55 miles per hour. Now, as you know, I usually test back home on the same road right outside my place, and that is at 50 miles an hour, and that's how I test vehicles. And this is not going to be a one-to-one comparison, because the roads are quite rough out here in this really hot climate. So there's going to be a lot of imperfections in the road and a lot of grooves in the road that are going to lead to some interior cabin noise. But overall, I am happy with interior cabin noise. It doesn't feel too noisy in here. I don't hear any noise off the mirrors, and especially those roof rails up top, and even having this big sunroof above me, or the panoramic moonroof, it doesn't add to any of that road noise. In terms of fuel economy for the 24 Acadia, we're looking at 23 miles per gallon combined for the front wheel drive and 21 miles per gallon combined for the all wheel drive. Just to remind you, we have 3 trims to choose from. Elevation at the bottom, replacing the SLE and the SLT. AT4 like we're in the middle, the off-road oriented trim, and the Denali at the top, the most luxurious of the 3 options. And the AT4 is the only trim that comes standard with all wheel drive, and that's your only option. The Elevation and the Denali come with the option of going front wheel drive. Now with the all-wheel drive vehicles, you are able to cruise around in 2-wheel drive mode. There is an all-wheel drive button over on the left side by your left knee on the lower portion of the dash, where you can press engage 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, or press it and just cruise in the 2-wheel drive option. It will beep at you if it needs the traction to turn it on, but in certain modes like off-road as well as terrain mode, it will engage the all-wheel drive and lock it in so you cannot go in front-wheel drive. But in normal cruising mode or sport mode, you can have it in just 2-wheel drive, which is a front-biased all-wheel drive system. Now, unfortunately, these events are fairly short for the first drive, so once we get this vehicle back home in our press fleet, we'll be able to do a more in-depth review and give you a little bit better of an idea how this vehicle drives on road with some more seat time. Now let's talk about pricing for the Acadia. The cheapest Acadia you're going to be getting into is going to be the Elevation front-wheel drive. It's going to set you back $43,995. That's including destination. Now, if you want to go to all-wheel drive, it's a $2,000 premium. Same goes for the Denali. And for the Denali all-wheel drive, that's going to set you back a whopping $57,695. Now, I didn't cover everything in this. There's a little bit more of a detailed video Alex did at the first unveiling, and there's definitely going to be more to come as we get these vehicles in the press fleets and we get them back home for a more in-depth review. That is going to do it for now. This is the end of the video, and my name is Nick for Auto Buyer's Guide. I appreciate you guys watching. Until next time, I'll see you then.